The galaxy was full of life long before humans ever looked up at the stars. Great civilizations had already built shining cities on distant planets. Their ships crossed galaxies like birds flying in the sky. They had power, wisdom, and strength. Compared to them, humanity was nothing but a child, too late to the great story of the universe. Aliens whispered in hidden councils, "Humans are weak. They came last. They will never survive the test of time." Their words were cruel, but not wrong. Humans had no great technology, no powerful weapons, and no long history among the stars. They were fragile, new, and small in a universe that had already seen thousands of empires rise and fall. But history has strange ways of turning the weak into something greater. Earth itself was not ready for the galaxy. Its people still fought with each other, still struggled with hunger and war. Yet, despite this, they dreamed. The night sky called to them like a mystery waiting to be solved. Their ships were slow, their colonies fragile, but step by step, humanity moved forward. And then one night, everything changed. Far away, beyond the edge of human maps, a strange signal was heard. It was not a song, not a greeting, not even a threat. It was something colder, a warning, a message carried across the dark emptiness of space. No alien race noticed it. Only Earth's small listening station, sitting on the edge of silence, picked up the signal. The scientists who heard it did not sleep for days. The sound was like whispers, broken words, heavy with fear. Some thought it was just noise. Others believed it was a trick. But one man, an old scientist with tired eyes, stood up and said, "No, this is real, and it is meant for us." Why humans? Why now? That question filled the rooms of governments and secret councils. The aliens laughed when they heard of Earth's discovery. "Why would the universe speak to you?" they mocked. "You came last. You are too weak to matter." But the signal was no joke. Again and again it repeated, always the same broken words, always carrying the same heavy warning. Something was coming, something that consumed everything it touched. Humanity had never felt so afraid. The night sky, once a place of dreams, now felt like a mouth opening wide, ready to swallow them whole. Children in small towns looked up at the stars and asked their parents, "Is it true? Will the darkness eat us too?" Mothers held them close but had no answer. Fathers looked at the sky with silent eyes, knowing they could not protect their families from what was coming. And yet, inside that fear, something else began to grow. Humans were always used to being lost. They were used to being weak, ignored, forgotten. They had survived wars, plagues, storms, and disasters. Even when stronger empires fell, humanity had endured. Perhaps that was why the signal came to them, and not to anyone else. In secret rooms, leaders argued. Some wanted to ignore the message. Some wanted to hide from it. But a small group of dreamers, scientists, and ordinary people believed this was not a curse. It was a calling. One young woman, a linguist who had helped decode the signal, wrote in her journal, "Maybe the universe chose us because we are not the strongest. Maybe endurance is more important than strength." Those words spread quietly, like a flame in the dark. From the deserts of Africa to the frozen lands of Siberia, from crowded cities to lonely villages, people began to whisper the same question. What if we are not too late? What if we are chosen? But still, the fear remained. Every night, the signal repeated, echoing like a heartbeat in the silence of space. It was as if the universe itself was whispering, "Prepare before it is too late." No one could say what was coming or how much time remained. But one truth became clear. Humanity's place in the galaxy was about to change forever. They were no longer just the last ones to arrive. They were standing at the edge of something greater, something darker, something that would test every ounce of their endurance. The stars no longer looked peaceful. They looked like watchers, waiting to see if humans would rise, or be broken. And in the quiet corners of Earth, where the signal still whispered, a new story was beginning. A story where the weakest would face the greatest test the galaxy had ever seen. Because sometimes those who come last endure first. The signal did not stop. Every night, it returned, cold, broken, and heavy as if carried by fear itself. It came in strange patterns, in whispers too faint to belong to machines. Some scientists said it was just cosmic noise, nothing more than space dust colliding in the void. But those who had listened closely knew it was not random. There was meaning hidden inside. For weeks, the world waited. Radios and satellites pointed at the stars, trying to capture every second of the strange voice. Governments sent their best minds to decode it. At first, they failed. But then, piece by piece, the message became clear. It was not a greeting, not a warning about humans themselves. It was something much worse. The words, when finally put together, said, "It is coming. It consumes. It leaves nothing behind. Prepare." Only that, over and over again, the halls of power trembled. Presidents, kings, generals, all of them sat in silence when they heard it. Some denied it, saying it was a trick, maybe an old alien prank. Others whispered about ancient legends of dark forces that moved between stars. But what shook them the most was not the message itself. It was the fact that no other species had heard it. Alien empires with advanced technology, civilizations that had ruled the stars for thousands of years, had no knowledge of this warning. When Earth tried to share it, the aliens only laughed. If danger was real, they mocked, "We would have known before you." But humans could not deny what they had heard. The signal came only to them, as if the universe had chosen Earth to bear the truth. The secret was too heavy to keep. Slowly, whispers spread among ordinary people. News channels showed grainy clips of scientists playing the sound. It was like a low hum, shaking deep inside the chest, ending with words that felt like shadows pressing against the mind. Children covered their ears in fear. Old men muttered prayers. Mothers sat by their windows at night, staring at the sky with wide eyes. The world was no longer the same. Some believed the warning was a gift. Others said it was a curse. Why should humans carry this burden when they were the weakest of all? In a small laboratory, a young scientist broke down in tears. He whispered, "Why us? We can't even fight our own wars. How will we fight something that consumes stars?" But the message did not care for fear. It kept coming, again and again. One winter night, when the snow was heavy and silence covered the cities, the signal grew stronger. It was not just words now. It carried images. Shadows of broken planets. Ruins drifting in space. Silent, empty worlds. It was proof. The darkness was real. Those who saw the images never forgot them. The color of dying suns. The sound of empty silence. Entire galaxies devoured, leaving only dust behind. Panic spread. Some humans wanted to leave Earth and run. Others wanted to build weapons. But the truth was clear. Humanity had nothing powerful enough to stand against such destruction. And yet, there was something strange hidden in the message. The voice inside was not human. It was old, tired, and full of sorrow. It did not speak like a machine. It spoke like a survivor. Someone, somewhere, had seen the darkness and sent out one last warning before being swallowed by it. The idea chilled every heart. This was not just data. It was a final cry of a dying civilization. Why had they sent their last words to Earth? That question burned in every mind. Governments argued. Leaders fought. But among the people, a different thought began to grow. Perhaps humans had been chosen not because of their strength, but because of their weakness. The powerful empires of the galaxy believed they were safe. Their pride blinded them. But humans had always lived with fear, hunger, storms, and war. They had always struggled, always survived. Maybe endurance, not strength, was the key. Late one night, in a quiet classroom, a teacher spoke to her students. She looked at their frightened faces and said softly, "Maybe the universe knew others would not listen, but we have always listened. And maybe that is why we heard it first." Her words carried hope. But outside, the stars looked different now. Not like lights of wonder, but like eyes watching, waiting for the darkness to arrive. And still, the signal did not stop. It whispered night after night, "It is coming. Prepare." For the first time in history, humanity was united by fear. Yet in that fear was a spark, a belief that maybe, just maybe, they had been given a chance to stand before the end. The question remained, would they endure or vanish like those before them? The warning had shaken Earth, but still many did not believe. People argued in markets, in schools, on screens. Some said the message was a lie, a trick to control humanity. Others whispered that the universe itself had spoken, and only fools would ignore it. But belief or disbelief did not matter. The truth was already moving through the galaxy. The first reports came from far away. An old alien empire, strong and proud, suddenly went silent. Their shining cities no longer answered calls. Their ships no longer appeared in trade routes. At first, other species thought it was war, maybe rebellion. But then another empire fell silent. And another. Soon, whispers spread like fire. Worlds are vanishing. Merchants told stories of planets where the skies had turned black. Refugees spoke of shadows spreading across stars. Their voices shook with terror. It does not kill, it devours. Everything. Nothing is left. The galaxy laughed at first. Great powers with powerful weapons believed nothing could touch them. But then, their strongest fleets vanished. Armies that had ruled for thousands of years disappeared in silence, without even leaving wreckage behind. The darkness was real, and humanity, weak and small, was watching. On Earth, fear grew heavy. The news of fallen empires reached every home. People sat around radios, listening in silence as entire civilizations disappeared like sparks in the wind. The question pressed into every heart. If the strong cannot survive, what will happen to us? Yet strangely, the darkness did not touch Earth. It passed through other stars. It consumed greater worlds, but humanity remained unnoticed. Like ants hiding under the feet of giants, they were too small to be seen. Some leaders believed this was luck. Others believed it was destiny. But to ordinary people, it was terrifying. The skies above felt haunted, as if shadows were circling unseen. One night, in a hidden station orbiting Mars, scientists watched through deep space telescopes. They saw it for the first time. Not a ship, not an army, something else. It looked like a cloud, but alive. A wall of blackness that moved like smoke, swallowing planets whole. It made no sound, but those who saw it swore they could feel it, like a hand pressing against their chest. An old scientist whispered, "This is no enemy we can fight. This is hunger itself." The images were shared with Earth's leaders. Silence filled the rooms as they watched the planet vanish, its oceans, its mountains, its cities, all erased within hours. The stars around it dimmed, as if light itself was afraid. The hidden enemy had revealed itself. But why had it ignored Earth? That mystery grew deeper. Aliens mocked humans less now. Some even began to whisper that maybe humanity's weakness had protected them. While the powerful empires had stood tall, proud and visible, humans were small, fragile, and overlooked. Still, this protection could not last forever. In refugee camps built on Earth's surface, alien survivors arrived broken and silent. They had seen their homes consumed, their families erased. They sat by fires, staring into the dark sky, whispering prayers in languages no human understood. One alien child, trembling, told a human soldier, "It sees strength first. It eats the powerful. The weak come last." The soldier did not answer, but his eyes filled with sorrow. Humanity had always been weak. But now, perhaps weakness was the only reason they were still alive. The fear grew heavier with each passing day. Governments struggled to stay calm. Religions rose and fell. Some people gave up hope, while others clung to faith. And through it all, the signal continued. That same broken voice from the stars kept whispering, "It is coming. Endure." The word endure became a quiet prayer among humans. Families spoke it before bed. Soldiers carved it into their weapons. Children wrote it on their school walls. Because if strength could not win, perhaps endurance could. Yet the enemy was closer now. Telescopes saw more worlds falling, each one nearer to Earth. Time was running out. Humanity's fragile place in the galaxy would soon be tested. And somewhere, deep inside the silence of the stars, the darkness was watching. Earth had never seen such days before. The planet was no longer only home to humans. It had become a shelter for those who had lost everything. From distant galaxies, broken ships arrived, carrying survivors whose eyes were filled with sorrow. Some had lost their families, others their entire worlds. They stepped onto Earth's soil with nothing but grief. At first, people were afraid of them. Strange faces, alien voices, different skins and shapes. Earth had never welcomed so many outsiders before. But when they looked into the eyes of those survivors, they saw the same fear they felt inside. The darkness was not choosing who to devour. It was consuming all. In ruined stadiums and empty factories, humans built shelters. Cities became crowded with voices from 100 different species. The nights were filled with strange sounds, alien songs, quiet sobs, and whispers of lost homes. For the first time, humanity realized they were not alone in their weakness. They were all fragile before the coming storm. Food became scarce. Earth was never ready to feed billions more mouths. Long lines stretched across streets, where humans and aliens stood together, waiting for a single piece of bread, a drop of water. Fights broke out. Some humans shouted, "Why should we feed them? We can barely feed ourselves." But others chose differently. Mothers tore their bread in half to share with alien children. Farmers gave away grain even when their own families were hungry. A soldier, tired and dirty, handed his only meal to a refugee girl who had not eaten in days. It was not strength that kept Earth alive. It was sacrifice. In those dark days, whispers began to spread. Aliens started calling humans a chosen. They spoke in quiet voices around campfires. Perhaps that is why the warning came to them first. Perhaps they are meant to endure what others cannot. These whispers reached the ears of leaders. Some grew proud, but others grew fearful. To be chosen meant to carry a burden too heavy for any one world. If the darkness was truly coming for all, then Earth was the last line of survival. But survival was not easy. Diseases spread in crowded shelters. Crops withered in overused soil. Oceans were strained by ships that came in endless waves. Nights were no longer peaceful. Skies glowed with refugee craft landing, one after another, until there was no more space to take them all. And still, the signal continued. The voice whispered across the stars, soft but relentless. "It is coming. Endure." Some people prayed to the voice, treating it as a god. Others cursed it, asking why Earth had been chosen to carry such fear. But whether they hated it or believed in it, no one could ignore it. In the middle of this struggle, a small story began to spread. It was about a boy from Earth who shared his blanket with a reptilian alien child on a freezing night. Neither spoke the same language, but they slept side by side, keeping each other warm. Someone painted the scene on the wall of a refugee camp, and soon it became a symbol. Humans were not the strongest, but they endured by kindness. Even so, the shadow was coming closer. News arrived daily of more world consumed. Refugees brought stories of stars that blinked out like candles. Some spoke of the darkness moving faster now, as if hunger had grown. One evening, in a hidden council under the mountains, leaders of humans and aliens met. Their faces were pale, their voices heavy. "We cannot fight this with weapons," one alien said. "We cannot run. Wherever we go, it follows." Then a human leader spoke quietly. "Maybe fighting is not our purpose. Maybe survival itself is our weapon. We endure. We hold. We keep hope alive." Those words spread beyond the council. They reached the camps, the farms, the streets. They gave people something to cling to. Endure. It became more than a word. It became a promise. But even as people clung to that promise, shadows grew in the sky. Refugees whispered that the darkness now knew Earth existed. And if it was true, then time was shorter than anyone had feared. The struggle of survival was only the beginning. The struggle for survival had pushed humanity to its limits. Every day was a test of hunger, fear, and hope. But even in those dark times, something new began to grow, an idea. If the darkness could not be fought with weapons, maybe it could be resisted with unity. It started small. A group of human scientists and alien survivors began meeting in secret. They gathered in old underground bunkers, using broken equipment and stolen energy to plan. Their faces were pale with exhaustion, but their eyes burned with determination. One of them, an old alien general who had lost his entire world, spoke in a voice heavy with sorrow. "I saw my armies vanish. My weapons were useless. But you humans, you have something different. You endure. If we join together, maybe we can build something new, not to destroy the darkness, but to resist it, to survive it." The humans listened. They were afraid, but they also felt a strange pride. For the first time, they were not just the last and weakest. They were leading something greater. And so, In silence, the first resistance was born. They did not build giant warships. They built hidden shelters beneath mountains and oceans, places where survivors could hide when the darkness came. They did not design weapons of fire, but systems to keep food growing in secret tunnels, machines that recycled air and water. Their fight was not with strength, it was with endurance. Slowly, survivors from many worlds joined. Broken engineers, orphaned children, soldiers with nothing left to fight for, all of them came to Earth and worked side by side. Humans taught them patience, and in return, the aliens shared knowledge far beyond Earth's reach. It was the beginning of a new hope. But hope is fragile. Among the survivors, not everyone believed in unity. Some aliens resented humans, whispering that Earth was too weak to lead. Others wanted to take what little humanity had and rule by force. In the shadows, betrayal grew. One night, in a hidden base beneath the Arctic ice, a traitor sent a signal. A beam of light shot into the sky, invisible to human eyes but bright to those watching in the dark beyond the stars. For the first time, the darkness knew Earth existed. The betrayal was discovered too late. The traitor, a desperate alien who believed surrender was safer than endurance, vanished into the night before anyone could stop him. Panic spread through the camps. Survivors whispered in fear, It knows where we are." In the streets of Earth cities, people looked up at the night sky with trembling hearts. Every star now felt like a predator's eye, staring back at them. Still, the leaders of the resistance refused to give up. They gathered in a vast cave beneath the mountains. Humans and aliens sat together, faces lit only by the glow of fire. A human woman, once a teacher, stood and spoke softly. "We are discovered, but discovery does not mean defeat. We will endure. We will stand together, not as humans or aliens, but as survivors of the galaxy. The darkness may come, but we will not fall easily." Her words carried through the crowd, filling them with strength. But even as hope rose, fear lingered. What would happen when the darkness finally reached Earth? Would endurance be enough? In the following weeks, the resistance worked faster than ever. Shelters expanded, secret alliances grew, and hidden signals were sent across the galaxy to other survivors. For the first time, Earth was not just a planet. It was a symbol that even the smallest, weakest species could stand against the endless night. Yet, in the quiet corners of the world, some people whispered that it was only a matter of time. The shadow was drawing nearer. The stars themselves seemed dimmer now, as if the darkness was already reaching across the sky. And deep in the silence, the signal still repeated, haunting and unchanging. "It is coming. Endure." The day everyone had feared finally arrived. It began with silence. No warning, no sound, only a strange stillness in the night sky. Then, slowly, the stars above us started to dim, one by one, as though a curtain of shadow was being drawn across the heavens. Telescopes confirmed the truth. The darkness had found Earth. Panic exploded across the planet. Sirens wailed in every city. Refugees and humans ran through the streets, carrying children, carrying memories, carrying anything they could hold. Soldiers shouted orders, trying to guide crowds into underground shelters built by the resistance. Above them, the sky burned. The darkness was not like an army. It had no shape, no face. It rolled across the stars like a black sea, swallowing light, bending space, pulling at the oceans and shaking the ground. People screamed as the earth itself trembled. In the shelters, families clung to each other. A mother held her son close, whispering, "Stay quiet. Stay strong. We will endure." A father covered his daughter's eyes so she would not see the sky vanishing. Old men prayed. Young soldiers gripped their weapons even though they knew bullets would be useless. The resistance had prepared for this moment. Hidden bunkers beneath mountains sealed their gates. Under the oceans, vast domes lit up, holding survivors safe for as long as they could last. But even in safety, the fear was unbearable. Above ground, brave fighters stayed behind. They knew they could not win, but they refused to vanish without a fight. Human pilots launched old ships into the sky, their engines burning brightly against the endless dark. Alongside them flew alien survivors, ships broken and patched, their weapons weak but their courage strong. They attacked the shadow. Their lasers and missiles disappeared into the void as though swallowed by water. But still, They fought. Explosions lit up the sky like falling stars. One by one, their ships vanished into the darkness. On the ground, people watched in silence, tears streaming down their faces. They knew these fighters were not saving Earth. They were buying time. Every second they resisted, more families reached safety. Every sacrifice meant another life could endure. And then, something strange began to happen. The darkness pressed closer, wrapping around the planet like a great storm. But when it touched the deepest shelters, it paused, as if it sensed something different, something it had not felt before. Inside those shelters, humans and aliens sat together, weak, hungry, afraid, but united. They did not fight with weapons. They endured with hope. They endured with kindness. They endured with each other. It was as if the darkness had expected fear and surrender. But instead, it found resistance not of strength, but of spirit. In one shelter, a child began to sing softly. The song was old, human, and filled with sorrow, but it carried through the air, calming those around her. Soon, others joined. Alien voices mixed with human ones, creating a sound the galaxy had never heard before. A song of survival, a song of endurance. And for the first time, the darkness hesitated. The resistance leaders, deep underground, noticed strange readings. The enemy was not advancing as fast. Something in humanity's endurance, in their unity, was slowing it. Not stopping, but slowing. Hope, fragile but real, spread like fire. Messages ran through hidden channels. Hold on. Keep enduring. The longer we survive, the weaker it becomes. Above, the sky was still burning. Entire continents shook as storms of shadow raged. But deep below, in the hearts of humans and survivors alike, a spark had been lit. The final stand was not about winning. It was about lasting long enough to see a new dawn. And as the darkness pressed harder, the world whispered the same word, again and again, like a shield. Endure. The world shook for days. The sky above Earth was a storm of shadows, swallowing stars and bending the light of the sun. People in shelters counted every hour, believing it might be their last. And yet, they endured. The darkness pressed harder, covering the planet like a vast ocean. But something strange happened. It did not break them. Instead of silence, the underground shelters were filled with voices. Families prayed. Children sang. Strangers held each other's hands. Humans and aliens shared food, water, warmth. For the first time in history, the galaxy survivors stood together not as enemies, not as strangers, but as one people. The darkness, for all its endless hunger, seemed to hesitate. It had devoured strength, power, and pride from countless empires. But here it found something it had never faced before, weakness that refused to surrender. Fragile beings who, even in fear, still held on. In the deepest bunker beneath the mountains, the resistance leaders watched in disbelief as their machines recorded the impossible. The shadow was slowing. Its advance was faltering. It was as if every heartbeat of endurance pushed it back, little by little. A human scientist whispered with tears in his eyes. This is it. Endurance is the weapon. Not guns, not ships. Endurance. The survivors realized that the darkness was not undefeatable. It fed on despair, on the collapse of hope. But where hope endured, it weakened. News spread quickly through hidden radios. Messages lit up the shelters. Keep enduring. Do not lose hope. Together we are stronger than the darkness. And so, Earth became a beacon. From other corners of the galaxy, scattered survivors heard the call. Ships hidden in debris fields and caves began to move again. Weak and broken as they were, they turned their eyes to Earth. For the first time since the shadow appeared, the galaxy saw a chance, not to defeat the darkness, but to outlast it. The final moments of the battle were not filled with explosions, but with silence. Slowly, like smoke fading into the wind, the shadow began to pull back. It did not vanish completely. It still lingered in the far corners of space, but it withdrew from Earth. The skies cleared. The stars returned. Humanity had survived. When the shelters finally opened, people stepped out into the light with trembling legs and tearful eyes. The air was heavy with ash and silence, but it was also filled with something greater, hope. Across ruined cities, survivors lifted their voices in cries of victory. Humans and aliens embraced, their grief turning into joy. The weak had not been destroyed. They had endured. On that day, Earth was no longer seen as the last. It became the first. The first to resist, the first to survive, the first to give the galaxy a new reason to believe. Alien leaders bowed their heads to human elders. Children of different worlds played together in the ruins, no longer afraid. Stories of endurance spread across the stars. And slowly, survivors from other galaxies began to rebuild, not under the banners of old empires, but under the lesson of Earth. Endurance is greater than strength. Humanity, once mocked and forgotten, had risen. They had carried the galaxy through its darkest hour. They had shown that even the weakest could shine brightest when all light was fading. And so began the new age, the age of endurance, led by those who had come last, but endured first. The stars above were no longer watchers of doom. They were witnesses to survival. An oath, fragile but unbroken, stood as the heart of the galaxy's rise.